Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors, a place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And the content that I'm going to show you right now is the beginning of the propaganda push. I'm about to show you Chris Murphy, Mr. Gun Control in the Senate, making a very favorable appearance on Joe Scarborough, Morning Joe. This is overt propaganda targeted directly at you to make you look like a bad guy based off of some 14-year-old's actions in Georgia. This is a tragedy, but again, never let a tragedy go to waste. I'm about to show you everything that we need to know and send this out because the fight around this is just beginning. Everything will be linked in the description box below. I can't wait to hear what you guys think. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. We need as much support as you can give us on this because we are walking right into the belly of the beast because these people are very motivated. And another great way to support us is join our website at secondpress.co. You get me, you get Katie, you get Second Legacy, the network that we are building, and you can get notifications to circumvent the YouTube algorithm, which is looking to deprive you of your Second Amendment rights, prescription of freedom. It's completely free. Right down there, linked in the description box. Join it so we can get on the same page and we can push these people back from the cliff of tyranny. All right, let me get into this because we have got to talk about some DNC, MSNBC, Chris Murphy, gun control extraordinaire. This is a gun control soup du jour. 8 hours. 8 hours ago, I told you guys that we were going to be ready to meet these people exactly where they were going to go. On the media, Chris Murphy's, the Ro Khannas, all the Democrat politicians, to get out there and drum up emotional reaction and then try to spin it towards Kamala Harris and make it part of the campaign. Guys, we do what we do, and I'm going to be honest, we were over the target pretty quickly. It took 8 hours. Check this out. We're going to break through this, react to this, and I'm going to show you how they are standing on tragedy to get something, even though all the rules and laws they put forward would have nothing to do with anything about what we're about to cover. Let's get it, though.
It's senseless. It is. We've got to stop it. And we have to end this epidemic of gun violence in our country once and for all.
Senator, I really wish that we were on here to continue to talk about the Russian propaganda scheme, but we're not. We're here to talk about an American epidemic, an epidemic that's been going on for decades in this country. You represent a state and citizens suffered a tragic loss that endures each and every day. The frustration level that you must be dealing with in terms of trying to get something done finally. How do you do it? How do you deal with the frustration level in a country, in a government where the saying majority rules is a joke? Majority rules doesn't happen.
All right, but before the propaganda starts with Chris Murphy, I just got to address something really quickly. Majority rules? So you want a pure democracy. We're not a pure democracy. We're a constitutional republic. So, unfortunately, two wolves don't get to vote with one lamb to decide what's for dinner. That's not the way it works. We're all equally represented, which is why they hate the Electoral College, because we are all equally represented. But the other part here, the frustration to get something done. These are the exact same freaking people who are telling us the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act is the first movement of any gun control landmark in the whole world in 30 years, and Joe Biden is the greatest president on the planet for being able to achieve it and fight the gun lobby. Do you see what they do to you guys? It is literally nothing's being done. Oh my God, we're amazing, we did something. And then when we didn't get the AR bans that we wanted, all of a sudden nothing's ever been done. It's tiresome, isn't it? Again, please share this out because I'm going to be really real with you guys on this. All right, let's continue. Let's get to the propagandist Chris Murphy. Talk about someone who's in the pocket of every town for gun safety. Let's get it.
Yeah, I listened to that clip and hear this wonderful sentiment that love is going to prevail, hate will not prevail. Well, that's not true if you look your kid in the eye and tell them that you're going to do nothing about the fact that 14-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds can get their hands on a weapon, the AR-15, that is literally designed to assassinate as many people as quickly as possible. It's not a coincidence that all these mass shooters turn to the same weapon. They pick that weapon up because that weapon is literally designed for mass slaughter. You don't need that weapon to hunt. You don't need that weapon to protect your home. You need that weapon if you want to commit mass murder. And
Nope. You toolbox. Okay, and I'm going to be really, I'm going to try so hard to be professional here. This guy gets my goat, though, talking about standing on tragedy. A 14-year-old got his hands on a gun. None of your laws that you put forward are going to have anything to do with that. Guess what? They can't buy a gun in the United States because they're 14, they're a minor. They can't be in possession of a gun because they're 14, they're a minor. Particularly, anyway, let's keep going. All universal background checks wouldn't apply because they're a minor. Red flag laws wouldn't apply because they're a minor. It's almost like we have a problem with our hearts and minds in this country, not with a piece of metal. But we can't talk about that because now it's AR-15s. Remember, all the other murders that happen in the United States, that are a majority of them all, the FBI's own statistics are handguns, but we can't talk about that because that would be very uncomfortable, because then we would have to take all the guns away, but we can't say that out loud. So let's focus on the AR-15, even though they are not every single mass shooter's choice of weapon. It's whatever they can get their hands on, because there's a sickness, again, of the heart and the mind, not of requiring an AR-15. Because all the other mass shootings that they conveniently ignore, and all the other invisible mass shootings, which is why I call them invisible mass shootings, is because it doesn't fit their narrative. Except this one sure does check all those boxes. So let's get on Morning Joe and let's really lay out the propaganda real thick. And we're only 1.5 minutes in. Okay. When they lie to you guys like this and they try to manipulate the American people out of their rights, it infuriates me. But let's keep going.
For the reason that these shootings continue to happen, part of the reason that these shootings continue to be so lethal is because states like Georgia have made a decision to put the profits of the gun industry ahead of the health and safety of our kids. That is not love. My kid yesterday called.
Okay. Okay, so all the mass shootings that happen in California, all the mass shootings that happen in Illinois, like, I don't know, the Highland Park shooting and the July 4th parade. What about that one? Did Illinois put all of the profits over the people in that one? Nah, can't say that because that doesn't check the box. California, some of the most extreme gun control possible. What about that one? Nope, can't do that. What about the top shooting in the grocery store that you guys like to stand on all the time? Oop, can't do that. It's New York. You see all of these lies they consistently throw at you all the time? Oh, don't worry. Now he's going to talk about his kid talking about a bomb threat. All right, let's go to this one because there's no laws against bombs, right?
Me and told me that coincidentally, his school went into lockdown. His public high school went into lockdown yesterday because of a bomb threat. I asked him, how all this makes him feel watching the scenes in Georgia, living through another lockdown. And he kind of shrugged it off. He just said, we're used to it, right? We're used to the idea that when we go to school every day, there's a chance we may not come back. That kind of baked in trauma is part of what explains why our kids are having so much trouble today. It's not just social media, it's the constant threat of violence that we choose to inject into their lives. So we got a choice this election. Kamala Harris stood up on stage yesterday and told you she's going to make this a priority. She's going to work to ban these AR-15s. She's going to work to make sure that everybody goes through a background check before they buy a gun. Donald Trump went up on stage a couple months ago and told you that not only is he going to do nothing, he's going to repeal the progress that we have made. Mass shootings are actually down this year compared to last year. I know it doesn't feel that way, but it's true because we passed a law 2 years ago with Kamala Harris's support that makes it a little bit harder for bad people to get their hands on guns. Donald Trump says he's going to go backwards to the days where we had even fewer protections for our kids. So it's just a choice. You want us to
right there, and wait for the little summation, little bullet point that he has for you. So Kamala Harris, you see that pivot? My own child said he goes through bomb threats every day and lockdowns, just baked in trauma. But you know who doesn't offer baked in trauma? Kamala Harris. See that? This is all about politicization and spinning to get their favored candidate in the White House. This is next level disgusting. But don't worry, there's even more, because again, Donald Trump wants to repeal any and all gun laws, which is something that he has never said. What he said was things like, you're not touching my guns, is exactly what he said. But let's not get in the way of the actual campaign talking point of, we're never going back from Kamala Harris. Then all of a sudden, Chris Murphy says he wants to take you back to no gun laws. See how that coincides? It's coincidence. I'm sure it's nothing else. But let's listen to the bullet point. This is such a boiled down little talking point. Check this out.
Stop these mass shootings. You got Kamala Harris who says she's going to make this a priority. You got Donald Trump who says that he's going to put the profits of the gun industry first. That's an election issue that a lot of parents are going to pay attention to this November.
Senator, good morning. It's good to see you. Yeah, you're right. We were talking earlier. I have 2 teenagers as well. The extent to which this doesn't shock them is the most shocking part, that they've grown up in this environment where this is a possibility. We always hear in these shootings, in a case like this, a young kid who's not old enough to buy a gun by law, the defeatism, which is, what are you going to do? His dad had guns. Many of them owned legally. The kid got access. He was a troubled young man, got access, went to school and shot. We shouldn't punish all gun owners because one kid who was troubled found his dad's gun. What do you say to those kind of arguments?
All right. So before I go into Chris Murphy's response here, this is actually a very valid question. Hey, the kid involved here was a 14-year-old. He can't buy a gun. None of your gun laws would actually exist. But don't worry, there's a gun law for every scenario. It's like a little sliding calculator chart of if this happens, then this happens, and if these things happen, we aren't going to cover it. There's an entire formula. But, very interesting point. How do you stop a 14-year-old who can't buy guns from getting guns? How's that possible? Oh, also, by the way, how you explain the fact that the FBI knew about this kid and interviewed this kid but did nothing about it? The big theme here is not the AR-15. The big theme here is every single one of these shooters is somehow known to the police or known to the FBI, but somehow they just keep on slipping through the cracks. It's kind of weird how that works, doesn't it? But anyway, let's get to Chris Murphy. Let's hear his response to, hey, how do you coincide the idea that none of your gun control laws that you're pitching right now would do anything for a minor? Anyway, let's see what he says.
So listen, I always think it's difficult to make policy based on one particular shooting. In this case, it looks like the young man got his hands on his parents' gun, but there are plenty of other mass shootings where a young man walks into a gun store and walked out with a weapon. There are plenty of instances where the owner of the firearm pulled the trigger, and we could have either denied that individual the gun, or we could have had a red flag law that allowed somebody to take that gun away. But here is a policy that can work. In Connecticut, we've got a safe storage law. We actually require parents who have young kids in the house to lock up their weapons. And there's a penalty if you don't. Georgia doesn't have that law. So it isn't as if there aren't interventions that would make a difference. I always think it's a mistake to make policy based on one mass shooting. But whether it be background checks, whether it be strong red flag laws, whether it be banning the weapons, whether it be requiring parents to lock up the weapons, it's not as if we have a shortage of policies. It's not as if we don't know what to do. We know what to do. It's just states like Georgia, run by Republicans, run by Donald Trump supporting Republicans, choose to do nothing because they care about the gun industry more than they care about the health of our kids. And that's just a choice for voters. You want to continue to have the gun industry in charge of your state? You want to continue to have these shootings happen? Go continue to elect people that advertise to you they're going to do nothing. Or you could choose to support people who go out there and run for election and tell you that they're going to put our kids' safety first. Yeah.
All right, if you guys cannot recognize the full-on overt propaganda that they are standing on tragedy within 12 hours, I mean, guys, holy God. Do you see how much he tied the positive change of banning guns in his mind to Kamala Harris and the hope and change and all this kind of crap? And then all of a sudden it's Donald Trump-owned Republicans in the state of Georgia who don't believe in state safe storage laws, which would require a state-mandated organization to check on you and your guns in order to be penalized. You see how all this works? There's always something. There's always some sort of gun control because you can't let a tragedy go to waste. If it's a minor that does this, then we can talk about Ethan's law. If it's a person who's above the age of minority who can actually buy a gun, well, now the issue's on the gun owner and the gun shop. And we can sue them out of existence. And then it's the gun manufacturer. And then it's the actual platform. It never ends. These people are utilizing tragedy in any way, shape, or form, and if it doesn't fit their boxes, then they just ignore it completely. Again, which is why I have the Invisible Mass Shooting series, because it calls out their hypocrisy all the time. But anyway, I really want to hear what Joe Scarborough has to say after that little propaganda push, because if you want to vote for these things to stop, then you got to get Kamala Harris. Get out of here. Okay, lock it in, people. We're going to lock it in together. Let's listen to Joe, see how this plays out.
Yeah, and you know, like the senator said, I mean, these are choices, and you talk to, again, I grew up around gun-owning, God-fearing Americans who believed in, not only believed, but they practiced safe storage, you know? And they believe in universal background checks. Overwhelming majority of Americans do. The majority of Republicans do. The majority of gun owners do. Believe in universal background checks and red flag laws and all of these things.
Why?
And safe storage laws.
Why?
I mean, there's so many things where Americans are united that would make a difference, at least on the margins. And yet a small subset of extremists, lobbyists in Washington, D.C., impact an entire party. And we continue to have these stories on TV.
Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, thank you for everything.
Okay. Okay. Let's have a moment there. Let's have a little fireside chat. Let's join together in this moment because I'm going to lose my mind. All right. So in summation, it's everyone wants universal background checks. Guys, obviously, everyone wants red flag laws. Every single person wants to ban the AR-15. Every single person is a full-on common sense Democrat gun control voter. It's just those mean old pesky Republican lobbyists in Washington, D.C., which are causing these things. And if you want them to stop, you got to vote for Kamala Harris. And if, there's always something that we can do. And guys, this is just the opening salvo. They're going to work this into the campaign for the next 61 days. I guarantee you're going to hear it. And we have so much more to cover. But I wanted to bring you the Chris Murphy response this morning on Morning Joe, because if you have never seen propaganda against your gun rights, you just saw a masterclass in it. And that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know if I landed that plane, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.